everyone. Welcome to Turning It Up, a mom and daughter team that loves people and thrill in finding and sharing ideas, tips, and tools for the everyday person to truly find themselves and live the extraordinary lives they're meant to live. I'm Heather Christensen, along with Kiara Bowden. We are so excited you are here with us. Please let us know who you are in the comments below. And if you have not already, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. How are you today, Kiara?
I am doing better than I have in the past 2 weeks. My kids seem to pick up some new type of virus every other week, and so feels like we're down a lot during this time of year, but
Well, I think it's
synchronicity.
all your little one is just getting your whole family really strong in the antiviral
Yeah,
immunity stuff, you
yeah,
know.
it's really such a blessing. Let me tell you how much of a blessing it is.
I'm sure most mothers out there know what it's like to have a little baby that goes around and just puts their tongue on everything.
Yeah, that is one of her strong suits. She likes tasting things. It's like a little puppy dog.
She does.
How
Everything
is
goes in her mouth.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. How was your week?
It has been so great. We have been learning a lot, studying a lot, and it's just fun. Every day is a new adventure.
I think it's funny how we ask each other how our week has been, like we don't talk to each other every single day,
I
but
know,
we
right?
but we talk to each other every day just so everybody knows. Oh man. Well, our last episode we talked about humility, and synchronicity and adversity. So we learned how it takes humility to drop our pride and connect to our heart to allow synchronicity to happen. But within synchronicity, there will always be adversity, as I very well know, and my mom, of course, knows. But it is that higher power reminding us that we need to connect to our heart to show us better ways to think, act, and perhaps to know what better direction to take in our life. And at the end of the video, we talked about how even though we have been programmed here on earth between the ages of 0 to 7, that our spirits or our higher selves existed before. And because the heart is so great at directing our decisions, it only stands to reason that we were actually programmed before we came here to this earth. So the title of this episode is Connect to Your Heart. It knows it all. I think that as human beings, we all know this on some level too. Like everyone always says, oh, trust your heart, trust your heart. And who knew that it was like so true? It's like a deep statement if you really think about it, even abysmal, but just there's a whole lot to unpack in that statement. Um, what do we mean when we say that, Mom?
Yeah, well, like you said, the times, well, when your heart knows all. I am amazed more and more as I think about how much the heart knows. It knows everything. I mean, we have experienced that in our energy balancing, how when we connect to each other and things like that, how we're just able to ask questions and the answers come, and it knows everything that you need to heal. It knows everything that it needs to succeed, that we need to succeed. So I just think that in life there are lots of things. It's a pattern of life, like when you watch ants, they all just know to go in a little train to follow each other. The bees just know intuitively what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it, and where the queen is, and what they need to do to protect, or things like that, to get pollen. Everything has a pattern and a system, and it just goes to stand that there is a higher power. And when we connect to that oneness, which I believe the animals are already connected to, I think it's just so powerful. um, it gives us knowledge and power that helps lead us along. And if we are intentional about connecting to our heart, we can influence a lot of what happens in our lives to be joyful versus being reactive to the difficult challenges in our lives. It makes me think of a gentleman that I worked with just recently that was having just a terrible time staying in a relationship. He didn't have a difficult time finding someone to love him, but when things became serious, he began having panic attacks. And when he came to see me, he was in a relationship and struggling to know if this person was right for him. I took him through a meditation in which he connected to his heart. Side note here, when I take someone through a meditation, I make it a point to connect to my own heart, to be, actually in a session, I am really very intentional about connecting to my own heart so that I know I can make the right decisions and help this person through the decisions that they need to make. And so, anyway, at the end of the meditation, I told him to ask his heart the question, is this person, and I said the name, good for me? And it was interesting because the answer came as a shock to me. First of all, I was expecting the answer would be yes, because this guy had so much fun with this person and they just really seemed to connect. But when I asked the question, a resounding no, it filled my head. It was like someone was yelling no. And I was shocked, first of all, that I actually received the answer myself because it wasn't geared to me. Secondly, the answer was no. I didn't say anything because I trust that the person's heart knows the answer. And so he was the one that needed to decide, right? So I usually just ask the person to write the answer down after a question is asked, and they don't have to say anything to me, but they're free to share if they want. And these exercises are more about receiving answers, the answers that they need. So when he opened his eyes, he looked shocked. I waited, not knowing if he was going to, fill me in. And then he told me, it was like someone yelled no in my head. And I was like, yeah, I know. But we talked through the experience, and he said, when I heard the no, I knew it was the truth. And he put his hand over his heart. He said, I knew it was the truth. I had known it all along, but we had so much fun together and we really clicked, and I was able to rationalize it away. But every time I took a step toward making that commitment with her, I began having these anxiety attacks. So interesting too, the body is connected to that heart. And when we aren't following what our heart knows is right, it's interesting how the body will react. And I think that's an important part that we need to bring up too. But anyway, when he made the decision to break off the relationship, he became more calm and peaceful. The next time I saw him, he said he missed her and he was very sad that he hurt her. But once he broke it off with her, he was able to sleep at night.
He felt peace through that decision because he knew it was truth, even though it was a hard decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's important to say too, and you did say it, but just to like realize that we're not there to like receive answers for people, but we're there to like help them learn how to receive them for themselves, which is really important. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've experienced similar, I know that I've experienced similar things, but sometimes it's just hard to like realize what's happening if you don't know like what to call it, right? Like,
It's true. Yeah. We are giving a name to this.
yeah, because I feel like everyone knows that they have intuition. Some people are better at listening to it than others. I always think about my rheumatologist who, when I said that I didn't want to do medication for lupus, suggested that there were studies that suggested that a plant-based diet could help suppress symptoms. And so I felt good about it, right? And then I tried it, and there's so much conflicting evidence and information between like different diets and like lifestyles that there have been so many times where I'm like, well, maybe I should try something else. Like maybe I should do something else. And I always get this answer that's like, no, you just need to stick to what you're doing. And I really feel like it's the same type of situation here. And I think
Yeah.
people get it a lot more than they realize.
Well, but go back to, you felt that it was good for you and you did it. Then what was the result for you?
I mean, it was night and day difference, right? But I mean, after you do something for so long, and it's been so long since you received like an answer, sometimes it can feel like, oh, like maybe I need to change something up. But I think sometimes it's really hard to just like have faith and trust in the answer that you already received from your heart and your higher self.
Yeah. Yeah. And we want to clarify again, when we're saying you're connected to your heart and your higher self, you're actually connected to that oneness, and you're connected to God. You're connected to that universal knowledge out there that can tell you the right from the wrong for yourself, and for helping other people or things like that. That's what we would like people to understand. So,
For sure.
yeah. I was working with another gal. She had just a really bad time in her marriage, and she was trying to decide. He had done some pretty hard things. And I'm not liberty to say any of this kind of stuff, but he had done some pretty hard things in their marriage. And she was having a hard time trying to decide if she should stay in the relationship, in the marriage, or end it. They had been together 10 years and serious problems. And then when she first came to me, her demeanor was like that of a little rabbit. She was just scared and she wouldn't look me in the eye. And she just kind of was like this. And um, I just, I felt her fear and her heartbreak. And after a few weeks of clearing her heart regularly, she was able to overcome her anxiety and and but she did have issues still because she was dealing with him on a daily basis, and so
Yeah.
it was just upsetting things. But she and I both noticed that as her heart wall was cleared, she started feeling more free, more like herself. She started to hear the answers to the questions that she needed to ask. And so I taught her the heart meditation, connecting to the heart, to be able to ask those questions. And she practiced that meditation. And over time, as I saw her, she just started growing lighter and lighter. She had clarity in her eyes. And she, um, it was interesting because she took that meditation home and she practiced it night and morning, for days. And the next time I saw her, I said, "So, have you come to the conclusion?" She says, every time I ask my heart the question, I just know with every fiber of my being that I am supposed to fight for what I have. I'm not supposed to let this go." So she knew what she wanted, was right, and she finally had clarity. It was really wonderful to see that.
Yeah, I'm sure that gave her a lot of peace, knowing that she wasn't, fighting a wholly uphill battle, that she was supposed to be doing that. And that,
Well, yeah, it's interesting because she he was really being brutal to her the whole time. And she was always questioning, am I supposed to be doing this? But when she got into the heart meditation, it told her, yes, you keep fighting. And it was an uphill battle. It really was an uphill battle for
well, when
her.
I say it wasn't like wholly an uphill battle, I mean like there was a light at the end of the tunnel, like that it
She
was
had
for a purpose and she wasn't just doing it to do it,
Yeah, and that is the thing too, by connecting to this wholeness, this the heart is you've got to have faith, in the answers that you receive, because if you continue to listen and act on what you receive, your heart's going to continue to talk to you, and your heart intelligence is going to get stronger and stronger, right?
For sure.
And so her heart intelligence was getting stronger and she had more strength. And so it gave her more faith. Like you said, she felt like there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
Gave her
And
a
it was,
purpose and a meaning behind the fight that she had to go through every day.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of crazy to think about, um, how powerful this concept is.
Yeah, it
um,
is.
there's this, I have another story that I'd like to share, and it has to do with a young adult. And he'd been struggling, this young adult had been struggling with health for years, so many years. Um, for anonymity, I'll call this person John. So in his younger years, this person was a go-getter, so many talents, so many abilities, just a go-getter. And one year he suddenly fell ill and he couldn't get any better. He went to doctor after doctor, professional after professional, holistic person after holistic professional. He went to counseling, to so many things to try to get better. He followed through with all of the instructions of the therapies, and with nothing working, he started to grow hopeless. Really, he lost all hope. There are times he'd get stronger, and then an event would occur that would give him anxiety. And all of a sudden, he would fall ill again, sometimes months on end. It was just
Wow.
really sad.
Wow.
And at the time that I began helping him, um, he had been suffering from illness and he wasn't able to leave the house. I cleared his heart wall and he slowly seemed to be getting stronger after that. And then suddenly an event triggered him and he fell into a fit of anxiety, and then bam. he was down
Mm.
again. So from my experience, it seemed that this was a case of a habitual program. Now, I don't know when that programming started. I mean, you know how we talked about the ages of 0 to 7, that programming, so that lays a foundation. But then we have experiences after that. And if we have certain negative thoughts that affirm
Yeah,
or
they
validate
confirm the program that was
that,
created already. Mhm.
that program that was created already, then it just solidifies our reality and it continues to expand
Yeah.
as we grow. So his mom reached out to me again and asked if there was anything that I could do for this person. I told her I would take some time to think about it. And that usually means connecting to my heart and asking the question, can I do anything for this person? I really felt like I could do something to help. And during our session, I cleared out a few current emotions that were going on. And he said he was feeling better after. He said that he was feeling better after. But I knew I wasn't finished. The words kept coming to my mind. No one's going to heal him but himself. He needs to know this.
Mm.
So interesting, but what that meant to me, I mean, what comes to your mind when you hear something like that?
I mean, if I were him, I'd be really irritated that someone told me that. But I mean, I had a similar experience with my lupus. Is like I they have no cure. And so if I wanted to get better, I needed to listen to my heart and figure out what was right for me. So it seems to me that he probably knew what he needed to do, but he wasn't, you know, realizing it was like an answer of how he needed to heal himself.
Yeah, I think that's a really profound thought right there, Kiara, is that a lot of times we don't realize that it's an answer, or maybe we need
Mm-mm.
someone to direct us to
Yeah,
it
yeah.
and make us aware, right? Be mindful of it.
Mhm.
Well, um, he was super super smart, and he was able to do so many things. And in my mind's eye, sometimes I'm given visions of these people that we work with, and I can see how beautiful they are and how much potential they have, and their heart is just waiting for them to access that knowledge so that they can become, so that that gap can close, so that they can become their higher selves.
Yeah. So it's like when you injured your shoulder and your heart told you that you should do nothing, which probably meant that you just needed to stop trying to do all of these therapies that weren't working for you. Um, it's like you were just so busy trying everything and researching everything that you just didn't give yourself and your heart the chance and the time that it deserved to give you the answer and allow for things to happen within the synchronicity of the situation.
Yeah, true. There's that word synchronicity again.
That's
I
a
was
good
in
word.
my head when I was doing all of that researching and panicking, thinking I'll never be able to use my shoulder again. And by the way, it is now like 98%. Yeah,
Yeah,
all good.
you could not even raise your arm like close to over your head a few months
No, no. And my muscle is all developing back again. I'm so excited.
ago. Congratulations.
You hear it all the time, just like what you said. You need to get out of your head. What's your heart saying? Get out of your head and into your heart.
Get out of your head. So what happened with this guy? I am interested.
Oh, yeah, good question. So I took him through a meditation to connect to his heart, just to get him used to it, and suggested that he did it multiple times a day to increase that strength, that heart intelligence.
Mm.
He did do it. He said he felt better after the first meditation that I took him through. He promised that he would work on it. In the past, meditation, when I talked to him about meditation, it kind of freaked him out a little bit, because some things, he had this like mental violent disorder. I can't remember what it's called, but when he's in a meditation, things would start to turn violent for him. Like if you were to
Like
picture
a
him
more like a more intense version of like intrusive thoughts, probably.
well, and that's what it was intrusive thoughts. And it would turn to violence. So he wanted to hurt himself or things like that. But
That's good.
um, when I told him what kept coming to me, I says, you have been through professional after professional after professional. No one has been able to help you. And the thing that comes to my mind over and over is no one is going to be able to heal you except for yourself. He was like, what do you mean by
Tell me,
that?
'cause pretty sure I would have healed myself already if that was
Right?
the answer.
Right. And I said, it doesn't mean that people aren't going to be able to help you to heal. And then he stopped me right there and said, what you mean is that if I connect to my heart and ask myself the questions, then my heart will be able to tell me who I can go to, decisions that I can make to be able to follow the path to heal. And I says,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. And he says, but you aren't telling me that, I connect to my heart and I do these meditations and my heart is automatically going to heal myself. And I said, well, okay, so you're bringing up a whole different scenario there, and there probably are people that can do that. I don't know. I haven't met them personally, but if he is to get himself into that meditative state and out of anxiety and fear and depression, then it allows channels to open up.
For
Not
sure.
only, go ahead, what?
Oh, well, I was just gonna say you're not using all of your energy on this bad stuff. Your body has the chance to use its energy to heal and pay attention to where your body needs it instead.
Yeah, it opens up the flow. So not only energetically, it opens up the lymphatic systems,
Yes.
the oxygen, the circulatory blood systems. So all of that, I mean, it's a balance. But once you get into anxiety, all of a sudden everything starts closing down
Shutting
so that you
down.
can't heal.
Yeah.
So those are absolutely, those are really important things to consider. Is that when you are into your heart and you are trying to heal, it's important to keep those systems open and flowing so that things can heal. Because our body, I mean, science has already proven that our body has a great power to heal itself. Once you upset the flow somewhere, you upset it everywhere. So it's all about the balancing, like I said. And that's why energy work is so important. It's to remove those long term blocks that have been there for years and years. And then we teach skills to keep the energy in a positive state of emotion to prevent those further blocks. Life is going to happen. We will probably have blocks, but we want to teach people how to come out of those blocks, just like what you and I experience every day when we go into events. Everything's neutral until you give it meaning, right?
Yep.
And then you connect to your heart, and your heart tells you what's the most important thing to do at that time.
Yeah, for sure. I think also with just like the energy, the long-term blockages and stuff, and learning how to take yourself out of anxiety. And a lot of people that we work with, when they are able to have these long-term blocks cleared from them, they always talk about how light they feel. And so when something happens to them that could throw them into anxiety, it's not as hard to pull themselves out of it because it's just so much lighter. And so you're able just to deal with things on a much better level than you were previously because it's not all compounded inside of you.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because you meet people, we meet angry people, don't we?
Yes, that's who come to us regularly.
Yeah, we meet angry people and they're like, I don't want to be angry. I'm trying to get past this angriness. Well, what happens is and COVID was a great big um event
Yeah,
that shot people into this anxiety, this fear, this anger. It just was very divisive for people. And it upset a whole lot. But what happens when we go into those events, like what you were saying, is all of this compounded stuff, it makes all of those emotions just start to vibrate.
yeah,
And when you feel all of that emotion in you, that's what that's doing is it's vibrating.
yes,
And so when we can clear out all of that negative past emotion, when you vibrate, it's not going to be near as bad when we go into those events, new events.
yeah, it's easier to come back out of for sure. Perhaps the other part of that healing, going back to John, would be that when he is connected to his heart, he can speak the intention to heal and then just let synchronicity play out without having to worry about it so much and just learning how to trust the process.
Yeah, and trusting that process, like we said before, it's hard to do sometimes
Tough. I feel like that's
because
the hardest part of all of it.
it
Because
is.
so oftentimes we receive the answers and then at least this is what happens in my head. I like ask a question. I'm just like talking about when I'm like laying in bed at night dwelling on all my issues. And I am like, oh, what am I supposed to do about that? And then I actually end up, oh, like something comes to my head of something that you could do. But I'm always like, okay, well, is that an answer or is that just like me being stupid?
They tell me you're connecting to your heart when you're dwelling on your issues.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like I connect to my heart so often now that I don't have to like think about it as much anymore. And that oftentimes I just know, like, I'm just there and I try to be there as much as I can. And so, yeah, like when I, something pops into my head, I'm like, oh, well, is this a answer or is it not an answer? And you just make it more complicated than it actually is. And it's hard to have that trust to be like, oh, well, actually, this could be a good thing.
You bring up really good points too. And going back to John, that was another thing that he said. He says, well, so it's basically when I'm connecting to my heart and that first thing pops into my head, it's intuitive. It's your intuition, right? And I says, well, yeah, that's basically your spirit telling you what to do. And he says, well, I'm really good at that. And I said, then trust that process.
I,
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, let that process happen, connect to your heart, but know that that is the right answer.
Yeah, I have a person that I really look up to. He talked about listening to your intuition. He said, as long as it's not illegal and it's not going to hurt anybody, then just do it. I feel like that works in this situation.
Yeah. So John is seeing a difference. I have seen him up and about in society now, but people need to remember that healing takes time and reprogramming, sabotaging thinking and behavior takes work.
So much work
You can move 2 steps forward and sometimes take a step back. The key is to be consistent.
with
There are
anything.
the what? I'm sorry.
Like with anything, it's just you're working out a different muscle here.
You're working another muscle. And there are things involved like uncovering limiting beliefs that arise when you're trying to move forward in the purpose or things that your heart is telling you to do as well.
That limiting beliefs term keeps coming up a lot. I think that it's time we get into that.
Yep, I think so.
That could be huge for a lot of people. So, and I was thinking about that term oneness also that you're talking about when we talked about your first story with the guy who didn't know if he should stay in a relationship or not. And I thought a good example of that, I just feel like the term oneness can be confusing for a lot of people. Like they might not understand what you're talking about there. So you would ask them the question, and it wasn't only him that received that answer, it was both of you that received that answer. And like I mentioned before, it's not because we're here to receive answers for other people, but since we were both connected, or you were both connected to your heart space, that means you're both connected to that oneness. And so you were able to feel his energy and receive that answer too. But that's a good example of oneness. It's really deep. But this is what people are referring to when they talk about the abundance of the universe, the higher power, the creator, being one with God and being one with humanity. I mean, that's that oneness, is knowing what other people need.
Yeah, and I think that it's all about semantics, right? Because you have so many different religions that have their own term for it.
For sure.
It's you could say our spirit being one with the creator, one with the universe.
Our
You could
chi,
say
our
yes,
energy.
uh-huh. Even being connected to the divine consciousness, no matter how you say it, a God or a creator or a higher power is there. And when we connect to our heart, it calms that physical block that keeps us from getting answers. And it's open, and it opens us into a state of hearing. And it goes back to that when we are going against what our heart knows is right, we are going to go into that state of anxiety and fear, right?
Well, it seems to me that this is such an important tool of knowledge to have in your arsenal because, I mean, look at the world we're in right now. We never know when we'll be limited in our ability to access professionals, medication, traditional and modern medicine. So yeah, I really think that the higher power has programmed us with everything we need to be able to survive and thrive and live joyfully. as we learn how we can help ourselves, but also help others.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe that higher power knows exactly what's going to happen in the future and wants to empower us with all of the knowledge that we can have. And it's abundantly there. Excuse me. And it's abundantly there.
All right. Well, I think that is the full load for this episode. Remember to leave us a comment, like and subscribe, but thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.